You are literally one call away from a better freelance writing retainer. If you are doing your marketing, sending your LOIs, doing all the good stuff, then you need to suss this out on a call. You need to look at those websites and make sure they're already creating content. So let's just jump in. How are we going to get more of these better retainers? So number one, you need to be pickier on your calls. You need to be pickier about who you get on calls with, which means you need to ask more questions before you get on a call. So when you're already doing this with your potential clients, whether you get an inbound lead or you get someone answering an LOI, you get to be pickier about whether or not you'd work with that client. That means asking them about what else is in their pipeline or asking about the project or budget before you ever get on a call with them. Okay, so even if you send an LOI and someone gets back to you and they want to hop on a call with you, if you're being ultra picky about just doing retainers or long-term work, you need to ask some questions first. You need to ask them about that pipeline, ask about budget, ask about project scope, what they're thinking, what they have in mind, so that you don't just get on a call and just aimlessly wander through, and you're not just getting on a ton of calls that go nowhere or getting on a bunch of calls that just lead to ghosting. You want to make sure that you're getting on these calls with people who are actually moving forward, they have long-term plans, and they actually align with the long-term value of the content. They actually understand why content is being created on an ongoing basis, why that's important to their business and their audience and their leads and sales and subscribers and likes, clicks, shares, downloads, all that good stuff. So we want to make sure that even if we get on a call with someone, we're really particular about aligning with those clients who see those things. So retainers are nice, right? We can do a blog post retainer. We can do a retainer where there's monthly content and quarterly content, but you won't know about that unless you ask. It's not something that you just like, oh, well, who's a retainer client? You have to do the marketing. So you have to make sure you're doing enough marketing. You're sending enough LOIs in and out to these business clients, these digging for diamond clients, as I call it. You're sending at least 50 to 75 LOIs a month. And you're making sure that you're being picky about who you get on a call with, what you're asking them, and you're also sending enough marketing out regularly so you get to be picky about that. We want to kind of have this, what's the word I'm looking for, exponential kind of effect, like this kind of fold over effect, like over time, it gets exponentially better. So the more you plant, the more seeds you plant, the pickier you get to be. So if we get to be picky, then we only can align with these clients who have retainers because we get to be picky. And that's literally just filling your pipeline. You need to fill your pipeline. So we're looking at these clients, and when we're kind of sending our LOIs, we're making sure they're already creating content on an ongoing basis, whether that's blog posts or white papers or case studies or email drip campaigns. We can see that in their website, or we can see that throughout their LinkedIn, what they're promoting in their social posts. We can see that they're already doing that. So we already have some good indicators before we get on a call that they're already doing these things. That's what we're looking for. We're making sure that because they're already creating these things, that's kind of an early indicator that they see value in creating regular content, connecting with their audience regularly, and not just popping up whenever they're like, buy my shit. So you want to make sure you're getting those things, and you ask about those things. When you get on a call, you ask about, what do you see the long-term value of your content is? Or why are you creating content on an ongoing basis? What are your goals? Like, what's the point of all this content? And you hear an answer that makes sense, right? They align with the same things you think about content, or the reason that you believe that audience needs to be connected with weekly, or how you're going to set up all of these processes and systems and places that you're going to put content. So you want to make sure that they're not only aligning on seeing the value of content, why they're creating it regularly, not just to fill more space. That's not the goal. The goal isn't to get a retainer to just create more content to fill space. You're getting a retainer to create high quality content that does the stuff it's supposed to do, right? It's connecting with that audience. It's helping them become a lead, a sale, a subscriber, a like, a click, a share, all that good stuff. And it's putting them into kind of the content funnel. And it's really connecting with them. It's not just putting them in to make them a number. It's creating these content pieces that actually resonate with them. It's the right type of content delivered at the right time. So we want to align with the brands that really kind of do those things. And then the second thing, when we have more retainers. So our number 2 thing is when we have more retainers, what we're doing is we get to be pickier. So this is what I was talking about it being kind of a an exponential kind of like process. The more marketing we do, the more seeds we plant, the better we do with our website and LinkedIn and getting inbound leads, the pickier we get to be. The pickier we get to be, then we get to pick more retainers and we get to pick long-term ones, and we can say no to other people. So your major key here is to do more marketing, straight up. I know it's a pain. I know sometimes feeding the beast of marketing is a big pain in the butt, but it literally gives you as many opportunities as you want. The other thing too is that you're making sure your LinkedIn and your website are all tuned up to connect with the right clients. So when we're putting all of these things together, we're putting our retainers in by sussing people out from what they're already doing, right? Sussing those businesses out based on what they're already doing on their website and LinkedIn and in their content. And then we're sussing them out on calls. But if we're sending more marketing, we're usually getting more replies, or we're getting more calls, or we have more warm leads to follow up with because they gave us a response. And then we get to be picky about stuff. That's the whole goal, especially when we're moving to getting better retainers, or we're trying to get in a space where we have work that lasts 3 to 6 months. We want to be at a place that's picky, and you need to create options for that. And in my own business, this has backfired on me a bunch of times. So I often tell my students, my Wealth Lab and Runway students, that every time I've made a mistake in my business where I feel like I'm like, there's no clients, or like I know that when I look at my data in my business, it's because I fell off the marketing wagon. It was like, oh, I haven't done marketing in a few months, like, whoops. It was because I got really busy with work. So for me, I know that this is the key. And the people that I know who are the most prolific pitchers, they send the most pitches to magazines, or they send the most LOIs, they get to be as picky as they want. They get to do all kinds of cool stuff because they're really picky based on how much they're putting out there. So your job is to plant as many seeds as possible. You can't control when those seeds will bloom. You can't control who's going to answer you when, but you can control how many seeds you're planting for the possibility of blooms later on. And that thing really gets to being pickier. Now, the other thing that you can do, which I think would be number 3, so we've already gone through asking more questions, looking at their current content, all that. The other thing I like to do is kind of create like some kind of page or questionnaire. So if you're at the point where you're like, I only want to work with people who have above $5,000 or above $10,000 for a project, then I would be really particular about people filling out a form or doing some kind of self-select out process. So you can create a one-page site that's not searchable by Google, where someone would be able to go there and kind of self-select out based on what you're talking about on that page, or your budget, the questions that you're asking, or the budget, or what you're talking about for pricing for your project. So it wouldn't be like the same thing as putting pricing on your website where someone would go there and be like, McDonald's, $5.99. It would be something where you would only send it to certain clients after they answered questions via email, and you're like, okay, we're on the fence. I'm not sure if you're the right fit for a call, but maybe, I kind of want to suss this out. So you send them the link to the webpage, and if everything works on the webpage for them, they can schedule a call so that by the time you get on a call with them, you're like, great, we're on an alignment. Or you can have a questionnaire. So you can have a questionnaire where you're talking about what's the project, tell me about the scope, tell me about the goals, what's your budget, what's your timeline, all of these questions. These are other things too that if you get my seasoned veteran cheat sheet, you'll have a bunch of these questions too. So if you go to mandyellis.com/cheat sheet, you can grab these questions. But you want to make sure you're kind of sussing them out on a bunch of different levels in that questionnaire. We don't necessarily want everybody to answer the questionnaire because I feel like sometimes it can be easier to talk to certain clients on a call, but there might be clients where they're kind of in that gray zone. So whenever a client is kind of in a gray zone, I usually am like, maybe we'll send the questionnaire, or maybe we'll do that. So the times when I've sent a questionnaire, it's when I'm kind of not sure and I'm like, hey, you need to fill this thing out before we get on a call. That's part of being really particular about what you say yes to. It's not about saying yes to everything. It's about saying yes to the right things. And that really matters to moving up to better retainers. It's not just getting the retainers. It's not just writing 4 blog posts a month for like 4 clients forever, right? It's not about that. If you really want ongoing work with really good clients, you need to be particular about who you let on your client roster and how you spend your time and what you're saying yes to. So as you're going through this, whether that's pickiness, whether you're really good at calls and you're like, hey, I'm going to suss them out on a call, or I'm going to ask them some questions via email, I'm going to set up like a one-page non-searchable site that I can send a link to, or a questionnaire. There's some kind of filtering process so that you're only getting on calls with certain people, or you're only starting to work with clients who have a certain budget or a certain set of goals. And that really helps you align with these clients who actually have the money and are seeing that long-term value in the content. And it can be a great working relationship. It can be someone who really enjoys your copy, your content, and they give you a testimonial, or they actually track the results and tell you that. So I really want you to put that in your noodle. In your noodle, there should be kind of this freelance writing retainers being picky. And in order to be picky, you need options. The options come from marketing. Yes, you can also have referrals. Yes, you can also have inbound leads from your website and LinkedIn. Yes, you can have referrals from freelance friends. But for me, I think a lot of times when I'm studying how I want my business to go, or I'm looking at the data in my business or my best clients, a lot of times it leads me to be pickier about who I let into my business, or be pickier about the projects I want to do, or be more selective about who I get on a call with. Because when I, like, let's say a few years ago, like maybe 5 years ago or 6 years ago, I would just get on calls with everybody. And that did give me experience. So getting on a lot of calls gave me a lot of experience to kind of figure out, like, okay, is this a good client for me? Are they listening? Are we vibing? Is this like on the same page? But it also wasted a lot of my time. So when I did a calendar audit of that year, I noticed how many calendar appointments I had. I was like, I had all these calls and I didn't really get that many projects. And it was because I was not being picky about it. I wasn't paying attention to the long-term work, the retainers, right? And I really was just kind of like getting on these calls being like, great, they want to get on a call with me. So set that bar a little bit higher. Set the bar higher for your time. Really value your time more. And that means your time for calls, your time for admin, your time for onboarding, your time for actually doing work, your vacation and off time. Well, the more you value your time and the pickier you are, right? The more seeds you're planting, the pickier you are. This kind of like exponentially grows over time. So then you get to be as picky as you want to be about all these clients, because then you have more and more options, right? You've done all the seed planting, you're doing all this stuff, you know who you're looking for, you have like little data things where you're like, these are the types of clients I want. And then you don't have to take on just all the work, just the clump that you want to do. So as you're going through this, really think about your retainers as not just like the ongoing work, but the next echelon. Really the people who are on the same level of creating content. They really understand the value. They're at a place where they have a budget and they can give you goals, and they're not just spending, they're not coming back to you and saying like, this is too expensive, instead of giving you an actual budget, right? It can't be too expensive if you never gave me a budget. That doesn't make sense. So you want to make sure you're kind of sussing them out more. So say no more often. Be more particular about your time. And I think for me in my own career, as I have been pickier about who I spend my time with, or what I spend my time on, or what kinds of goals I have and what time I need to achieve them, that has helped my business grow. So as I'm moving forward with, like, for me, one of my goals is I want to have 4 to 6 content strategy projects a year. That means I can't spend a lot of time on blog posts here and blog posts there and like little tiny retainers. Like, I really have to go after these bigger projects and have time and space to do them, because they take a lot of time and energy and effort. So that means I need to be particular about my marketing, who my marketing goes to, what kinds of stuff they're planning to do for their project, and who I get on calls with, and how I'm moving forward with that. And I think those pieces are really key. The most successful writers I know are just really particular about what they spend their time on. They're not just absorbing all the projects. When I first started, I just said yes to everything, which sometimes is good when you start, because it kind of helps you learn more things quicker and it helps you kind of understand clients. But it can be to your detriment if you just say yes to everything for like 5 years. What ends up happening is you don't really learn. You have too many people in the sandbox, and you don't have enough consistency to kind of learn who your best clients are. You're just saying yes to everything, and then you're in this kind of like, a lot of times it's feast and famine, because it's just yes without actually paying attention to what's going on in your business. So you really want to pay attention. You really want to have these kinds of particulars about your time. I think the more you value your time, And the more you're particular about what projects you're taking on, what that looks like in your schedule. Like, I know how much time in my schedule 4 to 6 content projects take, in amongst like my course students, in amongst my communities, in amongst my coaching. I know how much time those things take. So I'm really particular about measuring all that stuff and knowing what I can handle without burning out. So if you can kind of measure that and figure that out, that helps you be picky about who you take on with your limited time, who you get calls with your limited time. And then you can also spend more time marketing. You don't have to say yes to everyone who gets back to you when you send an LOI, or you don't have to say yes to whoever says we want to do a project with you. You can leave for any reason, whether that's budget or whether you're like, I'm not doing any more press releases or blog posts. So remember that. You want to keep that in your mind. Be particular about your time. So if there's anything I want to leave you with when you're moving up to these better quality retainers and you're looking for these clients, really suss it out before you ever get on a call. And if you get on a call and you're like, this is not a fit, if you can financially not do it, then don't do it. What's the goal is like, why would you want to, or the goal is like having a good long-term retainer, not just signing someone to have something going on. So if you're at the point in your career where you're kind of sending that, you can be a little bit pickier, send more marketing so you can be even pickier, right, about your clients. And then you can kind of move into this being picky over time where you have a project that lasts 3 months. So then you can be picky about how much work you take on during that time period and when your next project starts. I think all of those things really matter to looking at both high-end clients, how you use your time, and retainers. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope it helps you see how all these pieces go together for getting better retainers. And our next one is we're going to talk a little bit more about high-paying freelance writing clients, how we're going to dig for those diamond clients, some attributes of them, and how we're going to put all these things together. So I hope this has been helpful, and I will see you next time.